If you're wondering how I ended up here in this superior survival state, then you're going to want to pay attention to what comes next. This is a brief introduction to how I would start a solo Ironman game. And I mean, just look at me. I exemplify what it is to be a survivor in Kenshi. Look at this swimming technique. You wish you had this technique. Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. If you're tired of dying 30 minutes into your favorite solo Ironman, or perhaps you've become addicted to advanced medkits to deal with the pain of save load carpal tunnel, and you want your favorite squad mate to survive a little longer. Well, friend, these following tips are for you. They're going to teach you how to survive out there, Wastelander. Survive like me and my raptor friend here. Well, pay attention, and you can be just like me. Pincushion with crossbow bolts and friend to creatures of the land of Kenshi. First thing we want to do when setting up our solo Ironman game. New game, Wanderer start. That's a preferred start for solo Ironman. You can choose any race you want without being at too great a disadvantage. Advanced options. Production speed times 2, research speed times 2, building speed times 2, easy prospecting, bandits loot to player, makes life unfair. Kenshi is unfair. Production, research, and building speed are cranked up because in a solo game, to build a house alone or to do any meaningful research would require an inordinate amount of time on fast forward. Oh hey, didn't see you there. I'm glad you made it through the boring settings explanation. Now we're into the good stuff. You'll be geared up and navigating the foglands with impunity in no time. And all on your own. Pay attention to the next lesson. Once you land in the hub, your first destination is going to be the only intact small house in town. The items inside are randomly generated, so you're just as likely to find valuable items like grog and blood rum as you are to find ceramic plates and bowls. Once you're done looting all of the useful items, head to the chest in the corner and pick the lock. Once you've taken everything of value from the house, mark it on your map because there's 2 8-time speed healing beds in here which you're going to need later in your Ironman career. Our next stop is the bar. It's very close to the house, so you shouldn't get lost. That's where we're going to sell everything we took from the house, hoping that we get enough money to be able to purchase a large backpack. Once you've sold everything, up to and including your clothes, because we don't need the ones that you start with, prioritize purchasing first aid. If all he has is basic first aid kits, buy those. But if he has splints as well, which happens occasionally, purchase some of them because they're very useful. Our next stop is Squin. Hopefully you make it alive. If not, you know what to do. Try not to start a new game inside a game. Always exit Kenshi fully and restart that way. Otherwise, you're going to run into some pretty crazy game-breaking bugs later down the line. Once / if you make it to Squin, prioritize a backpack and first aid, including splints. A trader's backpack will work just fine to get us started on this journey, but ultimately we want to invest in a thieves backpack. That doesn't necessarily mean getting rid of our trader's backpack once we get that, because we will need it for stackable items in the future. Your first stop, if you're not starving at this point or too badly beaten, is to go straight to the travel shop. This guy usually carries first aid kits, splint kits, and the backpack we're looking for. If you are too beat up, head to the bar first and grab some food and run to bed for the night. Occasionally, he doesn't have the trader's backpack, but he eventually will. In this case, I don't think he does. So we're going to have to settle, for a small backpack. It's not necessarily a huge setback. Ideally, you come out of the hub with enough money to purchase a large backpack or a trader's backpack. In this case, we're going to grab the small one, some available first aid, a splint kit, and a sleeping bag since we can afford all 3. The small backpack isn't that small and should accommodate all the things you just purchased. We want to keep the weight off so we can run quickly. Now that we've got a backpack, some basic first aid, and some food, wait for nightfall. Our next destination is due west of Squin. If you just start running, you'll see it. It's a set of ruins. If you see Admag, you'll have gone too far. Bearing in mind we have no weapons to defend ourselves with and no armor to sustain any damage, we can only hope right now to run past or sneak past our enemies, which is why we waited for nightfall. Ideally, we wait for nightfall and there's a sandstorm between us and our destination. Due west of Squin, there's a ruin, right between Squin and Admag. This is our first destination. If you go at night, you're less likely to get attacked by anything, and if you do see anything, if you press sneak despite being at 0, nighttime should add some efficacy to your effort. Hold down left alt. It's going to highlight all the items we're here to collect, which is why we got our backpack. Tools sell for a lot. You'll see some rusty chainmail here, and there's 2 other sets of rusty chainmail in this area. We're just going to grab everything of value, running from tower to tower. You're also going to notice that there's a lot of fragment axes and planks. This is where it would have been ideal to have the large backpack. So if you were lucky enough to loot the hub and get money for it, congratulations. You're going to head back to Squin and be a fairly wealthy individual. Put as many of the heavy items as you can into your backpack. It's going to help leave off some of that weight we're carrying. Don't worry about being too heavy on the way back. Consider it free strength training for the jog and put it on fast forward if you want. Just always keep an eye out for enemies, sneak if they're coming nearby, and if you absolutely have to, drop your backpack and come back for it later. The only thing that matters in a solo Ironman is surviving. Once we get into Squin, our first stop is the armor shop. It's my preferred place to sell these items as they're our first bit of loot, and we're going to use it to buy the gear we need to start training right away. Talk to the Ronin armor trader. Sell everything you don't think you need. If you want to train heavy weapons, keep your fragment axe or your plank that you got from looting. Otherwise, get rid of it. As for your high-grade rusty chainmail, which always spawns there, it's entirely up to you whether or not you want to keep it. I'm going to sell it because it sells for 4,367 cats. Tools. Choose to keep them if you're interested in picking locks that are beyond your capability early game, but that's not the point right now. We shouldn't be concerned with tools. Get rid of them. Fabrics, same rules apply. Keep our first aid. Keep our food. You should have 1 or 2 ration packs from those ruins. And now turn your attention to the armor that you want to use for training. In any solo Ironman, more armor is better. In this case, we're going to go with something that doesn't necessarily affect our combat speed too greatly. So I'm either going to look for a high quality mercenary leather or a high grade armored rag set. If I can't afford it, I'll go for a standard grade. In this case, because I'd like to get some pants as well to protect our legs, I'm going to go for the standard grade armored rags. And then I'm going to look for some standard grade cloth pants. Nothing here is going to affect our combat speed too adversely. The armored rags, 0.98 combat speed effect, we're not even going to notice that, so don't worry too much over that. As for head protection, if you can afford it, get something that affords you dust storm protection. As for this one, we have a armored hood, despite the fact that it's shoddy grade, dust storm, acid, and burning, all very useful resistances in case we want to travel. You've got armor, first aid, a backpack, and a handful of cats. Now all that's left is tricking a few bandits to the death to get your hands on your first weapon and start training. Hopefully the armor and your first aid gear keeps you alive long enough to reap the benefits. Keep your eyes out early for a pair of flip-flops and a better helmet if possible. Hey there! Now that you're done and wrapped up the getting started portion, you'll have to let me know by leaving a comment whether or not you want to know more. On your way out, throw me a like and subscribe if you're interested in seeing any more of these advanced solo Ironman guides, and you'll be slashing your way through the armies of Clondathu in no time. Anyways, I'd better deal with this. See you next time, Wastelander. Just in case you were wondering if I made it out of there, I did. Barely. If I still have an arm in the next video, then this went significantly better than expected. Catch you next time.